Well, his fourth book is called Mental Health, emphasis on the men, Mental Health. It's time to talk, and he got some help from a diverse group of Canadian men, including a former assistant coach of the Humboldt Broncos, best-selling author Allan Kehler, and contributor Chris Beaudry. Both join us on Canada Now. Allan, Chris, both of you guys, congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Well, Allan, we'll start with you. Allan, your book reviews the topic of toxic masculinity, how the shame of mental health, addiction, abuse, and related issues prevent men from seeking and accepting the help that they need. And let's face it, it's statistically proven that men are far less likely to ask for help than women.
Yeah, you say it well. Great segue, Jeff. There's some of those headlines out there that pop, right? Such as women seek help, men die. And it's been quite the journey. It's been awesome because there's nothing more powerful than someone's story. And basically, I figured that the best way to communicate some of these messages and to have a conversation was by interviewing some of the men, one of which, of course, is Chris Beaudry.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, tell us about how Allan would have reached out to you and how you got brought into the fold here.
Actually, he just found me on social media. We got in contact last April, and it just started with tea at a tea shop, and from there it's grown into something much bigger and much more rewarding.
Allan, you yourself have had mental health challenges. How did the idea come about to share other Canadian men's stories in this way as well as yours?
Yeah, I guess this one was a lot bigger than myself, Jeff. It kind of took on its own form, but as a motivational speaker, I continue to see so many men who want to talk, but they don't always know how to talk. And I'm starting to see so many people be vulnerable. And what happens is when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it gives other people permission to do the same.
Chris, how willing were you, at least at first, to share your story and to speak out as you have?
Allan didn't even have to finish his pitch, and I was in. I know the power of relating, like he just stated. And if people are interested in my story and it's going to help others heal, who would I be if I didn't share it then?
Yeah. So you share your experience. You discuss the stigma, Chris, of mental health in the farming community as well.
Absolutely. That it's a very closed community when it comes to mental health. We say, just had a long day, tough day today, have a good rest, it'll all be better tomorrow. Well, when it's not better tomorrow, then what? And that's where talking about it is a big part.
Allan, Chris talks about the pitch and you guys meeting together. What was it like for you to approach all these different men, these Canadian men, and pitch them this idea? What was it? What was that experience like?
It was awesome. It was liberating, and similar to Chris, everyone was all aboard. I mean, the cool thing with this book, Jeff, is everybody was saying enough of the silence. Let's put a face to this. Let's put a voice to this. What it was like for me, for one in particular, for one man, was really hard. I lost my best friend to suicide, and I interviewed his father. And, I remember crying the whole way to do that one. But for him and for myself, it was healing. And I think that that's a collective voice where everyone said, this felt pretty good. This feels right.
Yeah. Well, Chris, how do you feel now? Because this is a bit of a two-parter because you got an event tonight. First, I'll ask you this. How does it feel now to have been able to share in the written word? Because it's one thing, you go on the radio and it's great that you do and you talk about your story, what you've been through, what your viewpoints might be. The conversation might come and go, and maybe you don't get, maybe you get immediate feedback, maybe you don't. But with the written word, it's there. It's going to be in libraries. It's going to be around. It's going to be on coffee tables. It's going to be on bookshelves in homes and other places and offices forever. How does it feel to have your story in the written word?
I really appreciate it because, like you said, you go out, you do a talk, you go on the radio, and it touches people for a moment, a day, maybe a week. But this is something that they can review again. They can review each story over and over if they're still struggling, looking for something else. It may be my story one week that touches someone and another story the next week, to continually keeping that person on the path of healing. And I think that's really important with this book.
Well, and having said that, through speaking, and here we are on the radio, but, at an event tonight, being face-to-face with people. And again, the event, I should mention, and I haven't done it yet, you have a launch event tonight, guys, at 7 p.m. at McNally Robinson in Saskatoon. So you guys are having this event tonight. Chris, you'll be one of the speakers to have faces in front of you, and then for those faces to come up afterwards and be able to talk to you and follow up and ask questions. What are you expecting tonight?
For me, I mean, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I'm hoping it's just more people sharing their stories, that they're there because they're in pain and they're looking for some type of healing. And even when I share my story, I always tell people, I don't want you to listen to me. I said, I want you to listen to your own story in my words. So that when it touches a part in you that is an unhealed wound, like, oh, I share that. I'm not alone. I'm not all by myself. And I'm hoping that's what happens tonight.
Allan, what about you?
I think for me, I know that there's going to be some youth there. I know that my kids are going to be there. And what strikes me is that, the next generation of men are always watching us. And I just think back to myself, man, what would it have been like if I had attended something where I saw all these men who were just giving themselves permission to feel and to talk openly. And that's the thing. Like if we as men cannot talk about mental illness, suicide, trauma, substance use, sexual abuse, then why the hell would they?
Yeah. Allan, I really hope with this book that you could reach the men that are suffering in silence, because they exist. They're out there right now. Some might be listening right now. It really has to stop, because, there's this idea, Allan, that just being of the male gender is enough to plow through. Like, that idea is just ridiculous. I was born male. I should be tougher than whatever obstacle I'm facing right now. I can fight this on my own. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. It's ridiculous, but it's reality, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But you can only suppress so much before something's got to come out.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, Chris, as well. And I don't know if you're a parent, but my parents, I'm looking at my dad, grandparents before then. They were made of that kind of material, and they had that mindset. That's where they came from. That's what they were brought up with. But I feel like with our generation, and being parents, and I'm 42. I want my kids. I've got two boys, and I want them to be brought up where it's just the norm, where you talk about how you feel, where it's if there is an issue, that you do talk about it. You don't just eat it. Like, I'm seeing my kid, and he's a happy kid, but he's he goes to school. He's in the first grade. He faces first grade issues where maybe there's a kid picking on him, or he's not included in something, or there's an activity that he doesn't like doing, that he feels nervous about, he gets anxious about. And I remember when I was a kid, I kind of ate all that up. I didn't emote at all. I didn't talk at all. And I really want to make sure that we change things where it's just the norm for him to, at the end of every day or the beginning of every day, to come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, something's bothering me," because that's just not something I grew up with. And I hope, Chris, like with this book and your writing and your being outspoken, that changes with the next generation.
I totally agree. I mean, we only learn these habits by watching those around us. I mean, my dad, my grandparents, they weren't to blame because nobody ever taught them to talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. Even now, when their patterns are so set, it's so hard for them to actually look at that. But that's where it falls onto us, ones who are out there speaking, to make it comfortable for everyone else then to speak, so that we can create a generational shift where every kid that grows up knows that it's all right. It's just second nature. They don't even have to think about it. They just know that I have to talk about what's going on.
Chris, let me ask you this. Had this been like a year earlier, would you have been able to contribute to the book? Would you have been able to be as outspoken as you are today?
Yes. I found as soon as I got sober, my mom was very open and told me to talk. She lived a rough life, lived on the streets of Calgary for a while. So I had these tools. I just didn't want to put them into action until I got sober 6 years ago. And about a month after that, I figured out the power of talking. So it could have happened years ago, and I would have been available.
Well, that's great. Now, Allan, will readers walk away with a better understanding of why men tend to be closed off about their emotions?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think right off the hop, the first thing that we address in the book is the relationship between men, mental health, and addressing masculinity.
And Allan, Chris talked about it, what turned for him and how he was kind of given these tools years ago, and he only just started using them after an event in his life. For you, having been through your own personal issues, had those tools always been there, or was there something that happened where maybe a switch went off where you said, all right, I got to get up and help people in my own way?
Yeah, there were so many forks in the road for me, Jeff. There were so many people who were influential. At the end of the day, there was one man who was really impactful. He was a professor actually at the university, and he took the time to see a young man who was in pain. He took the time to listen, not fix, and he basically put the ball in my court and he said, "Are you happy?" I was like, "Well, hell no, I'm not happy." And the question basically became, what are you going to do about it? And so then the man gave me some resources, and then I quickly learned that it was up to me to utilize the resources. And then I started to get myself into Gamblers Anonymous. I got myself into Alcoholics Anonymous. I got myself into rooms where other men had been sexually abused. And once I started to see the power of talking and hear my story through others, similar to Chris, I was like, as if I am not going to try in every way to get my story out there.
Yeah. And, while you guys do tell your stories and you obviously come across as very well spoken and confident, are we all still just a work in progress here, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit on the wounds you can heal, and the better your life can be. And it's just a daily process. It's not expecting things to happen overnight. Just a slow grist to the mill, and every day you just continue going forward.
Allan, what do you think? We're still all just a work in progress here?
Oh my gosh. I mean, for me, I find life so hard, and I think it's kind of ironic. One of the keynotes that I deliver is removing the mask, and yeah, I'm up there smiling and I'm exhibiting all this energy, but I can honestly say, Jeff, it was probably like 5 months ago where I remember turning to my wife, Tanya, and I said, you know what? If I was given an ultimatum from the doctor, I was told like I got X amount of months to live, I said, I want to live. And that was significant because I have never felt that. I've always felt life to be really, really hard. And even in all this healing, like healing is work and it's painful, but it's also rewarding. But it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 back. But the point is that people like Chris, the men in the book, were doing the work.
Well, as you guys are working on yourselves, you're helping a lot of people as well. The book is called Mental Health. It's Time to Talk. Best-selling author Allan Kehler and contributor Chris Beaudry. Enjoy the launch event tonight, guys, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.